You don't need to be super fancy. You need to be super legible. And I always tell people that legible copy, legible design. You have to be easy on the eyes. The statistic is they will visit a website on average 31 times before they ever convert. So what you need to be optimizing for and the signals you need to be looking at is how people are consuming information on the websites. What are they most interested in?
Welcome back to All the Hats, the unofficial support group for small marketing teams. I'm Alicia Lay, head of B2B at Digidoo. Today, we're diving into landing pages because let's face it, most of them are just feature dumps with a CTA. So what should you actually say? How much info is too much info? And is it okay to use your product page as a campaign landing page?
I'm Omar Thoromerson, CEO of Optise. Luckily, we got the perfect guest for this, Taz Bober, B2B landing page and messaging expert known for her landing page teardowns, and someone who knows exactly why buyers say no thanks. Taz, great to have you on.
Thanks so much for coming, Taz. We're happy to have you on the show. You are in Columbus, Ohio, if I have that correct.
Yes, which is right now Snowmageddon outside. So I've got my heater and I'm ready to have a full-on conversation.
Awesome. Well, just to give you a little bit of backstory on our audience, a lot of the times we are talking to small marketing teams. And so you have worked with incredible companies and you've helped, and you've got an incredible podcast. And if people are not listening to Notorious B2B, they should, which is also, by the way, my favorite podcast name out there, I must say.
Notorious.
Yeah, exactly. Have you introduced your kids to old school hip hop?
Yes, I am trying desperately with my 6-year-old, and
Okay.
I keep telling her, here's the cool things to listen to. So the other day we listened to Return of the Mac in the car, and then she asked me what it meant, and I was like, you know what? I actually don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
BRB.
Yeah. You know what? That's
Um,
a really good question. I need to think about that.
Yes. And she also asked me this morning what the E bubble is next to all the grown up songs and why that E bubble is on all the Notorious B2B episodes. And I'm like, oh, because mommy says a lot of bad words. And she goes, but then why isn't it a B and it's an E? And then we had to have a conversation about what explicit meant. And I was like, anyway,
Yeah.
off you go to your play date. I'm done explaining.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit hole.
My 5-year-old the other day, he went, "Oh shit." And I was like, "Oops, that's a
Oh.
grown-up word. We
Yes.
can't say that one." And then he asked me what some other words were, grown-up words that we can't say unless we're grown up. And they're hearing it at the school. So it's not the first time that I said it. So I said, fuck,
Yeah.
fucking, that's bad. We cannot say that. And then he said, so I can't say fucking shit. And I almost died laughing. I was like,
Well, he's not wrong.
no, you cannot say that, my little 5-year-old. So parenting award goes over here. But anyways, Taz, do you want to just introduce yourself to the readers as like a great mom, great namer, but also, yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your experience.
Yeah, so my name's Taz Bober, like Sass Sober. Is that what I gave you guys as cues for the name? I've worked in B2B accidentally for the last 15 years. No one grows up saying, I want to be a B2B marketer, but whatever. Fell into it like a lot of us. And so my claim to fame is that I've worked in-house B2B before I went and started my own consultancy over the last 3 years. So before that, for 15 years was in-house. I led a lot of digital and website teams. I was also part of a lot of digital and website teams. And before I even started my consultancy, I'd already worked on 400 websites. And one of the reasons companies would hire me is because they wanted to lead like a redesign of the website. And usually I was in-house working at these companies that were like 250 million ARR, like big companies. And so they had 2,000 to 3,000 page websites. You have to hire a role to help migrate and redesign a 2,000 to 3,000 page website.
Quick question
So
with that.
yeah.
When you're doing this, do you start from how is this process happening? Is it a like constant back and forth between design and copy and content, or is it like, do you try to give, how do the priorities come in order here?
So I actually have done it so many times, obviously 400 times, that I had a pretty standardized process for it.
Okay.
And so it always would start with a requirements gathering doc. And so I would go do a Taylor Swift's, era tour internally at the company. And I would go to all the people who had various parts of the website. So HR and the careers page and the about us, partners with a partners page, product with the product pages, each of those places, I would say, okay, what is your, on an ideal page for our website, and you had full reign, what would you love? And I would just let them talk, and then collect a lot of this. So I would share my screen, do the, requirements gathering, and then slowly put those into kind of a roadmap. So what are we going to do for the V1? What are we going to do for V2? And so I had this philosophy of I would never say no, I would just say not now. And that was how I would push off a lot of the stakeholders. So they always felt very heard and listened to because I captured every single thing that they wanted. And I'm like, hey, for this first iteration, I'm thinking that these are the most important things we want, right? And they would, agree, disagree. Now, everything's documented, so they have that. All their wish list items are there. Anytime they would supply me with any wish list items, even down the line, I would just add it to this requirements doc that everybody had access to. And they would be happy because they feel like it was on the path. So once we had the requirements doc, then I would go into with the dev and design team, and talk about what are the blocks that we need to have that a standard issue that could go across all. And then we would work our ways from the primary pages to secondary to tertiary. So we would work on levels of pages and what those layouts needed to be. And then work on, the first layout, second layout, third layout, and then repeatable blocks, and then go into, okay, well, what's the content? How do we want to display content? Usually I just get content like, here's all the information we need. And I'm like, okay, how do we parse this into blocks? And so make standard issue blocks, and then wireframing, designing, development.
I mean, I honestly think that this could be a process that like a small marketing team could go into as well. I think it's a great idea to go to each department and ask them what they want rather than having this collective meeting where everyone's just spewing ideas
Totally.
all at one time.
Never
Wild
have.
West,
Yeah.
and yeah.
No, I actually have another philosophy with my clients now, which is you can invite people to our meetings, but I would say no more than 3 stakeholders. So they would have to pick wisely. So what would end up happening is they won't have 2 people from the same department, which is a good thing, right? So they would have one person from product marketing, my main POC, maybe it's the head of marketing or the head of demand gen, and then a third person who would come in depending on what it was. Sometimes it's someone who's actually in the product. Sometimes it would be, a higher up stakeholder like a founder. But I would say if there was 4, I'd be like, hey, can we keep it minimum because I want to stay on track. I always say everyone will have the ability to look at the outputs and provide their inputs at a later date. I just think for the discussion, you need to keep the room tight.
Yeah.
It's funny we should be talking about this because we just recorded an episode about all the stakeholders having an opinion on marketing and especially the website. And if you bring them in from the get-go, they're kind of heard in the beginning. And I love your point about not right now. So it's like, I'm not saying no to you. It's just like, it doesn't fit right now. Because everybody, like, I don't know how many times I've been responsible for a website and engineering comes in and says, this copy should be this, or product says there's not enough feature stuff on the website and all of that. So how do you manage that, like, going forward when you put it all together, you put it live and everybody in the company kind of looks at it and they go, I feel like, and they come to you and they're like, I think this is missing, and then, or this should be like that, or this color is off, or all of that.
Um, I don't take anyone's opinions on colors. So, usually whoever is part of like the design branding pod, so if someone's like, "Oh my God, that teal is just so atrocious." I'm like, "I know, but that's kind of part of our colors, is part of our brand." So I give them the, I hear you. I may feel the same way, not our call. Um, the second thing is people are inherently selfish. So when I go to HR, they don't care about what the product pages look like, right? They care about what their pages look like. So I take their opinions very seriously on information that needs to be on the page, but I know when to push back and when not to. So, oh, can we have this really cool, video that's playing in the background of the hero? And I'm like, no, but here's why. It's because it's going to make the page load really slow. No one's going to see it anyway. It's kind of blocking the text. We're not going to hit ADA compliance with X colors. So, like, those are the types of things that I take into consideration and I use as pushback. So, if I do pushback, there's always like a logical reason or repercussion that I present to them that they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to be responsible for, you know, being a violation or that kind of thing." Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I actually don't know about that. Let me take it back to my primary stakeholder on the product, whoever owns the website. Usually it's me, but I'm under either brand or demand, so whoever my boss is. And then when I give them updates on the project, I'm like, well, HR is saying that they want XYZ. Do you think it's worth it? And I also talk to them about things that are repeatable. So if they want something like a timeline block, we want a timeline on the About Us page of like the company's inception all the way to now. And we've been around since, you know, like the 80s. But we need to have this timeline because apparently people care about that. There are a couple of ways I'd go about it. One, I'd say, well, do you see us using something like this on anywhere else on the website? Because what's going to happen is I'm looking at $150 per hour in development costs to create this. This block will roughly, based on historicals, take about 7 or 8 hours. Now, if you can supply me with some additional budget, I can do it that way and try to get it approved, and that way money is not an issue. But if we have another block that's going to take 7 or 8 hours to develop, but multiple pages can use it, we're going to prioritize that one. How important is this to the larger story of what we're trying to tell on this page? So it makes them think about like, oh shit, okay, well, I don't have the budget. I'm gonna ask her to spend money, but she has money allocated towards XYZ contingency, that kind of thing. And sometimes I ask them to go and ask my boss, which already prevents them from doing it, right? It's easier
It's
to
a
talk
yeah.
to me.
It's a real flex to know how long your dev is going to take to create a block like that. Because I've recently gone through something like this for one of our clients and I was like, I don't know anything about the dev part. I'm like, is this a 10-minute job or is this a 10-day job? I have no idea,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So it's really great that you have that expertise and knowledge. And I guess the more you do this, the more you understand what's going to take a little bit of work and what's going to take a lot of work.
Question
Well,
for you
so
then.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, I mean, if we take a step back then, I mean, like, two questions for you. Like, to you, what is the purpose of a B2B website then for a company? What is the goal of it? And who should own it in a company? Because there can only be one, I think, that like not everybody can, like you said, like if you get everybody together, it's going to be a mess. So who should own it? What department? And what is the ultimate goal of it?
So this matters differently for different stages too, and what it does become. Um, I don't know if you watched my video from yesterday, but I went around during Thanksgiving and I took a video of I asked each person in my family to explain what I do for a living. Um, and my mother-in-law gave some wild answer. My dad, who has obviously been misrepresenting me for 15 years, told everyone I work in IT. Um, and my mother-in-law said that I help companies invest to make money for their business. So she sounded like a B2B website, right? Like, who knows what that is? I'm a VC or something,
Jargon.
apparently.
Yeah. She's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
future of
Yeah,
she's the future in investment and revenue.
yeah, yeah. And then my mom and father-in-law actually both said landing pages for companies, and I was so
Oh.
shocked. And then I was like, wait a second, I need a follow-up. I need to ask them if they actually know what that means. And I asked them, and they both did. They kind of explained it. They're like, well, it's kind of if someone's searching for a company online, they find it, it's kind of the face of the company. And I was like, fine, I'll give that to you. I'll give it to you. And and then my daughter said vlogs, and then my son said press number button. He's 3. So, which is funny. I'm like, yeah, revenue going up. That's me. Um, so I think the purpose of a B2B website, I'll answer that one first, and then we can go into who should own it. But the purpose of a B2B website or any website, right, is you want people to understand what you do, if you're doing it for them, and ultimately how you're solving this problem, why you exist, and how are you solving the problem. And one thing that we don't like to do is even list the problems on B2B websites. But how many, like those old infomercials that we grew up with in the 90s, that's like receding hairline,
Yeah.
Is
you know?
that you?
Yeah, incessant diarrhea. So like we always talk about that, and in B2B we'll talk about like pain agitation, like, but I'm not talking about pain agitation. It's like the empathy portion. So if someone is searching for a problem, or they're searching for a solution, or they don't even know what the solution is, right? And they're just searching for, oh my God, how do I make X faster or something like that? Um, are you answering the question? And so I think sometimes what we've done is we've taken this base information that's supposed to be very, um, like, not so deep that they get overwhelmed, but just enough information to then want to explore a little bit more. That's what the B2B website's supposed to do, is just to have this very simple purpose of, I want to learn more. I understand. I want to learn more. I want to get more detailed, right? Um, you have a 5-year-old. So if your 5-year-old asks you a question, you're not going to go into the lowest level explanation in great detail of what it is. You immediately are like, how do I explain this in the simplest way? And you do that for everybody, right? How do I explain this in the simplest way? So, one of the first exercises I do with clients is, can you explain to me in 2 sentences what your company does?
But when you do that, then it's always a very vague answer, right? We simplify and optimize and enhance.
And cut costs and increase
Yeah.
revenue.
We'll get something like revenue generating platform. I'm like, oh, interesting, because when people are coming to your website, they're actually looking for video tool. Are you a video tool? Yes, we are. Okay, yeah. So let's start there. Like, and that's where the founding story matters, not the timeline over 25 years or something like that. It's like, hey, we would do it. Like Slack story was like, insane, which is they were trying to build something else, but they found that it was so hard to keep track of everything and email each other, and things were getting lost in email. So they built this tool to communicate with each other. But that was better than a chat, but better than email, and they could pin things and pin conversations. And then the first business idea actually failed, but Slack, the actual idea of that workplace communication tool, kind of took off. And so that, those are the origin stories that are interesting to people. And they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? That is a problem. I hate email. I hate chat. um, this is a way to have both without things getting lost. The purpose is to give someone just enough information where it piques their interest. They want to dive a little bit deeper. So you remember when I talked to you about the primary pages, secondary and tertiary? You have to think about information and websites the same way. Your primary pages are going to say, this is what we are, this is who we're for, this is the problem we identified in the market, and this is how we solve them contextually at a high level, right? Not every freaking detail. then SaaS has taken it 15 steps further, which is every new feature is blasted on the homepage. Every new piece of content, every new blog is on there. So what ends up happening is you might have that base information, but now you're distracting them with information that's tertiary or even like below that. I don't even know what comes after tertiary. So secondary, then you have like, okay, your main pages, your home page, whatever, maybe solution, who you're serving, right? Then you go into the second level, which is, okay, someone sees a product. That's an interesting product. I go to this product page and it has these core features within the product and what it enables someone to do. Secondary pages. So those are now you're going into like specific features or use cases. And then you have your tertiary. The tertiary pages are like maybe technical documentation. So if someone wants to dive a little bit deeper, those exist. They want to go to a blog about a specific topic, a specific feature, find sub feature, they can go and look at those things. But ultimately, those people will hover and read mostly the primary and secondary pages, and then ultimately want to contact you. Hopefully, you've given them enough information to do that. But the core components that I talk about is what is the product, who's the people. So all these are P's: the product, the people, the problem, right? How you're solving that. What is the process? What can they expect if they engage with you? So, are you going to submit a form and then never hear from me again? I can't tell you how many CPAs I've submitted forms for, and I'm yet to hear back from any of them. Half the ones didn't even
Interesting.
work.
You would
Yeah,
think that it'd
That
be the
still happens.
opposite.
That
That you
still happens.
submitted a
still
form and
happens.
then they're just like they're emailing you to death.
No, no.
Interesting.
Tim Davidson did an exercise where he submitted demo requests across like dozens and dozens of companies. He loves doing this stuff. And one company called him like 200 and something days after he'd submitted the demo request. He was like,
No.
"Who is this?" He's like, "Hey, you submitted a form." He's like, "Okay, when did I submit the form?" And he literally said, "Oh yeah, like earlier this year or something like that," and gave him
Yeah.
date.
Wow.
And Tim was like, "Dude, I have like lived 12 lives since I've bought like
Yeah.
16 competitors since then."
But yeah, like tell me more about why you thought it'd be okay to call me now. Like I want to know what happened within those 220
That's
days. Like
crazy.
were you trapped in a cave?
Yeah, what
Yeah, yeah.
happened? So, what to expect is super important, right? And I always tell people like when a user comes to your website, what is the leverage that they have? Only their information, right? Giving you their personal information that they can identify you with. If they give that leverage away, they have nothing else. So they're going to hold on to it for dear life because now that gate is what's going to have either you harass them or they never hear from you again and they have no idea what you're doing with their information. So tell them what to expect in the process. Is it you're going to contact me within 24 hours? I have a client who was like, 24 hours? No, we have a standard in our business to respond to any inbound within 4 minutes, no matter time of day. So we put that, you know how impactful that is? You're going to hear from us in 4 minutes. How oddly specific. And so we outline the steps. In 4 minutes, you reach out. Hey, you're not going to get a full demo in the first call, but maybe the second, things like that, just setting expectations. And then answering any objections that you feel like are patterns. You hear a lot on sales calls, or you get a lot of feedback from customers, or feedback and a lot of agnostic reviews. Those are things you want to address. So you're going to supply them with core information of, who you are, what you specialize in, for who, what are the problems you solve, what is the process if I do contact you in order to learn more. And then, how have other customers like you used us, and are they happy? And the
And
ones
are
that
you
either
sorry, and are you answering objections in the website copy itself? So like I've heard on our sales teams that they're like people have been talking about how we're too complex to implement. And then you're saying you're already putting that on it's a copy thing.
yeah, we actually do objections in the FAQs. So a lot of companies will waste FAQs with like, what is property management software? Bro, I know, I'm here. I've already read everything. Why are you mansplaining to me this concept that I already know? So instead of utilizing that, you use the space. I actually just created this. It's funny that I'm talking about property management. I just created this before we got on a call for one of my clients who's property management. So here are some FAQs that we do, which is um, we do different FAQs per page based on relevancy on the page. So for them, they target single family operators and multifamily operators. And so we do a few different variations of FAQs for them. We do a primary one, which is like, reiterating some of their core capabilities, differentiators, whatever. We do an objection based FAQ just for that persona. And so we actually use voice of the customer, we put the little quote. So, hey, switching project management software is too risky. Migration could break our accounting. That's the objection. And then we do the answer, which was, hey, we actually will help you with migration. We'll make sure that there's oversight. There's no thing. So it's all things that they've heard on calls. We've heard all in one before. It never actually works. And then we're going to talk about that. Hey, my team won't adopt new software. Training will be too hard. So we put those in the FAQs. We also have competitor ones. So, how is Revella different from XYZ? That kind of thing. So we do those, yeah. And then like something like the ask is you submit a demo request, you're going to fill out a short form. Someone on our team is going to follow up with you and clarify fit within 24 hours. We'll give you a guided walkthrough of the system, and then we'll give you a custom proposal based on that, which is ROI focused. And then we'll give you an optional migration consult if that's something that you want. So it's very specific about what, we had. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then are you also putting keywords in there as well? Like, are you
Yeah,
thinking
how do you
about that at
balance
the same
that
time?
with SEO and AEO and the human element of it? How do you make that work together?
So for me, I specialize in the paid landing page side of things. But then I would say half my clients now, because they're lean teams, budgets are getting cut. They're like, hey, can we just do your process, but for the main website? And I'm like, yes. So we have half the companies that work with us now use this on their main website. And then the other half do it for the paid landing pages. And the primary differences come in how we present the CTAs, how much information we're presenting. So the keyword focus is a little bit different because I would say the main website is more choose your own adventure, and the paid landing pages are you've arrived at your destination kind of thing. And so with the AEO and all of that good stuff, ultimately, obviously, I've never done this, right? Which is the keyword stuffing and things like that don't work. The algorithms have gotten smarter as well. I talked to a company who is focusing on showing up in AEO search. And the first question I asked him was, well, it's funny because I'm advising for that company too, but the first question I asked him was, well, if you ask it a question and I ask it a question, it's going to give me two different outputs, right? Because that's what LLMs do. Um, Even if I ask the same question twice, it gives me different outputs. So how do you determine whether you come up or not? And ultimately, it's not the number of keywords, it's the number of citations, and that's how you show up. So if there are 1,500 citations of a specific keyword, the companies that basically have a bulk of that has a higher likelihood of showing up in the answer when the LLMs kind of scrape the internet for information. So the more citations you're part of, it's basically going full circle back into original SEO play, which is all of these websites, I need to get them to mention me and link to my
Backlinks.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Backlinks.
backlinks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
backlinks, yeah, link to my website, or I got to pay this website to feature me. It's come down to that. It's back to this PR play of like, you got to have a relationship with the publisher, but the publisher is no longer like Financial Times. It's like yummybakery.com or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's like a random website. It's kind of consolidate. It's like a Reddit post. So I always tell my clients now, I'm like, if someone is talking about your product category or your competitors or you on Reddit, join the conversation. Be open. Reddit will shred you, but just say, hey, I am from X company, FYI. The reason we don't show pricing is yada, yada, yada. That answer and that context, when the LLMs then produce it, will provide that context. However, a representative at company said that while they don't provide pricing.
Exactly. Yeah. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be shady about it. It's okay. You can be open and say, I work for them and this is why.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it is a visibility play, and the visibility is really happening a lot more outside of your website. Um, I when they are comparison shopping, or if they're shopping for software using the LLM, um, again, that same company that I'm advising for, because they're building this tool that's behind it, but they were like, well, the other thing, it's so funny, in the 1,500 citations of this product category, sometimes they will not mention the home company. Meaning, if you are the tool and someone is asking about your tool, they will not mention your website because they know you're going to be biased. So the LLMs will not pull from your own website because they're like, obviously this is going to be favorable. So it's going to pull from outside. So I always tell my clients, I'm like, well, don't worry too much about um, keyword stuffing and things like that. Now algorithms are better. There's a lot more natural language focus. It understands context, where it can say, okay, if you're saying, like travel and someone searching vacation, they're going to put two and two together. So like it kind of understands those nuances. Ultimately, it comes down to this, which is much like any product in D2C, right? It is just supplying the buyer with the information they need to justify the purchase. What is that information that they need? That's all you have to focus on, is providing the right information, and not getting too hung up on the outside stuff, right? Um, and and then yeah, and making sure, obviously, you're the citations thing is a whole different beast. I feel like that's going to be the new SEO, but that's not something you should super worry about from your main website perspective, not the blogs, just like your core pages.
So back to our original question, like the goal of the B2B website, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to kind of clearly articulate what you are, who you're for, what problem you solve, what value you create, and how you're different in the kind of an easy and understandable way, and guide the visitor to the action, which is the next step, and help them understand what to expect if they take that action, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not even like guiding them to the next step. I think ultimately, like, we're all adults. It's so funny that we think that buyers are ready to make 30, $40,000 buying decisions, but we think that they're dumb enough that we could CRO our way into them engaging with our website. Like, these are smart people, these are adults. B2B is research heavy. The statistic is they will visit a website on average 31 times before they ever convert. So, like, what you need to be optimizing for, and the signals you need to be looking at, is how people are consuming information on the websites, what are they most interested in. For this one client, we saw that 15% of the clicks were on the fourth FAQ, which happened to be one of the biggest objections. We pulled that up, made it its own block, and then they saw an increase in purchases by like 265%. It was something insane. And so
And did
it's
you see
those
that through a
signals you
heat
need to look
map?
at. Yeah, through heat maps. So those are the things you need to do first, because we're research heavy. If you're optimizing on conversions, you're kind of already too late. They've done. What's the other statistic is, and this is dream data, 80% of the buying journey and the research is already done by the time they interact with you. So, it's a little bit too late. You know what I mean?
I have a question about the heat maps because a lot of the times our teams are small, like the product is niche. There's not a lot of traffic going to these websites. So like I've got the heat map recordings of three people, you know, or these
That's
are
why I
real
don't
life
believe in A/B
problems, you know what I
tests for
mean?
B2B,
Like,
for
so
example.
because there's just not a lot of traffic coming to them. Like, maybe we could set up a campaign and we drive more traffic, but like limited budget. And are we getting who's to say if it's the right person? Maybe it's like Tom from the toilet store who accidentally clicked on our campaign. You know what I mean? So like, how do I know that the person who's, yeah, you see where I'm getting at with my question here. We have a numbers problem.
So I'll answer that in two ways. So the first one is, why do you think that I specialize in paid landing pages? It's because I can control the traffic through the paid campaigns and make sure that Tom, the toilet guy, is not the one who I'm optimizing for.
Good guy,
Because
though.
Yeah.
good guy. But it's the same thing. It's like my mom knows what I do. And then, when I asked her, I'm like, Mom, how do you know this? She goes, I follow you. I'm like, girl, okay. You follow me. Um, so it's just stuff like that where someone's really proud of Alicia. Like your mom's on the website, like, oh my God, my daughter works here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Click,
know?
click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always caution the half of my clients who are like, can we use your process, but for the main website? I'm like, sure, but we're not gonna sit here and make outrageous claims about what the return is gonna be or what your increase in conversions are like none of that. This is a product marketing and copywriting exercise, and that's what it is. Because we can't control a lot of this, and we don't, unless you want to do some shady stuff, we don't know who is visiting. Sometimes they'll have tools. If you have a tool like whatever our B2B or Vector and stuff like that, they will do like contact level. But again, those expensive tools, um, you know, again, there's like a certain percentage match.
And could you use your, so we've, let's say, like, we are limited resources. So we've just created this great product page that we're very happy with. Are you okay? Is it like on a TAS, like do's and don'ts not to use existing pages, like product page for a campaign landing page? Because like our whole nav bar is there, and like, what do you say to that?
Yeah. So with that, I would say if you have a campaign that's running, you want to have a specific page for that campaign that is outside of your main website. The reason is when we go back to that conversation of the stakeholder management, you're also going to say a lot of yeses to things that you're not supposed to say yes to, but it's kind of a relationship, you give and take, right? I have hard no's, I have compromises, I have things like that. Now, you tell me if you see some kind of signal on that page and you're like, okay, I'm going to make a change. How many approvals do you need to get before you can make that change? A lot. You have to go back to the stakeholder. Hey, based on the data, blah, blah. Okay, weeks can go by before you get a meeting scheduled on the calendar even, right? So I always tell marketers, I'm like, clone that page. That's your baseline page, right? You look at how, and you're sending your specific ICP to this page. You're going to make some changes, like not have your entire website nav on the page. You're going to do an anchored nav, because that's another thing Google's penalizing now is if you don't have navigation on landing pages, which is,
Really?
Okay,
yes. Yeah.
awesome. Good to know. But you can just have like it, you can have a nav that just links within the page,
Yes, that's what I
right?
do.
Yeah.
That's an
Okay,
anchor. Yeah,
okay.
an anchor
Yeah.
nav. So
Anchored.
I
Okay.
suggest an anchor nav, or if you want to navigate to a different page, in the footer, we do a minimal footer, and the minimal footer will link to other landing pages in your landing page ecosystem. So it's almost like this little microsite that is the marketer's playground. So these are places where these are pages you can say, okay, I've cloned this product page that I got approved. I have a couple of weeks of data now to show that it sucks. Thanks, stakeholders, right? And now you're starting to make changes based on those signals, based on specific ICP visiting these pages. It may not be 100% accurate, but definitely more accurate than the main product page that everyone and their brother can reach. And then you start making iterations based on that. Now you can take that data and go back and say, hey, I think we should make these big changes on the main product page because we have seen our ICP interact with this clone, that we've adjusted over time and tested a couple of these theories. And it shows that it has had X impact. We should update the main page now based on behavior. Going back to the sample size thing, I think we get hung up on it, but sample size is, again, it is relative to your company, the type of traffic that you get. one of my clients, we make a lot of decisions based on 200 visits, right? But we're running it from a campaign. She spends $3,000 a month, not that much, right? Which is fine. Lean team, she's a team of one, right? One demand gen marketer. She spends 3,000 bucks a month on this specific campaign, and she drives like somewhere between 200 to 2,000 views, but they are very specific to her ICP, and depending on a lot of factors, her range can go up or down, but she's somewhere in that like 2 to 500 range. Okay. If you're 2 to 500, say like, okay, 90%, 80% accuracy, right, of that, 180 or something like that of your ICP giving you feedback on this page, I would say that that's sufficient. The onesie twosies are a little bit harder, obviously, and you want to make sure that it's not you that's been on your own website for like hours on end. But
It's
even the
doing a
session,
great job, this website. They're so
yeah,
engaging. They're
yeah.
scrolling all the way down.
Wow. Who's been on my
Wow.
website for 30 minutes? Oh, wait, it's me. Okay. Um, so making sure that you're excluded from that too, and you can set exclusions in any heat map tool to make sure that you're not in it. And looking at like session recordings and stuff too, I just feel like, okay, how come we're okay with running on a survey software like Winter will run a survey of, your ICP and you can ask questions about your website. How come a survey with 30 people is okay, but then 30 people coming to your website from a campaign is not okay to make judgment calls
Yeah,
on?
that's a really good. I was actually thinking the same thing because we had used Winter before, and we had Pep on, and he said you don't need 300, you just need 30 or 15 or whatever. And I was thinking, okay, well, but the difference is he knows that those 30 people are your exact
I guess
ICP.
that's
I
the
don't
different, like the
100%
key thing
know.
here is
Yeah.
that the visits are good.
But that's where the paid campaigns and the targeting, and that's why I'm saying 80 to 90% accuracy, because there's going to be 20% that's like the toilet guy somehow slipped in with the campaign because the algorithm isn't perfect. They always slip in. Um, but I was a lean team too, and running the entire website, like a 2,000 page website, and $150,000 in ad spend every month. And I would sit with my paid guy every single Tuesday. We'd have our calls. We'd pull up uh, the people who had done the form submissions, and we would comb through every single one on Excel sheet and highlight the ones that he would have to go and manually exclude. That's how we were doing it, to that level, to make sure that it's cleaned up, clean up, clean up. So we went from like 40% ICP match, right? We used to call it ICP density. We'd go from 40% ICP density through all these painful exclusions. And then we got it up to like 86 before I left. 86%. The average is somewhere around 60, that you'd see from ICP submissions. So that's still better than your main website that's going to give you maybe 20% of prospects. 20% could be your customers, 30% could be internal traffic. So that's one of the first things I also do is, for any lean teams listening, you want to make sure you're trying to clean up some of those website traffic sources that are coming in so that you're making decisions based on the right people. You obviously can't exclude your customers. You don't want to exclude prospects, but you can exclude your internal people. If you are in an office, it's amazing and easy because you can just exclude based on company IP that's at the company. But if it's not, then the other way to do it, if you're fully remote, is we used to send out a cookie every quarter, and you could work with your IT team, create this cookie that would create an exclusion. Your dev team can also create this. Once a quarter, we'd send it out to the whole company just in case people have cleared their cookies, whatever, but it would exclude a majority of the people working there from like, your whatever website analytics you're
So,
using.
personal question, you talk a lot about your experience in-house, and now you're like advising. Do you ever miss in-house, or are you quite happy being like consulting?
I miss the insurance. I miss the I miss the benefits. The benefits were nice, when it's like, "Hey, Task, we're flying you to Dreamforce, and my stay is paid for, and my Ubers are all expensed, and my food's expensed, and everything's great."
Here's your per
Um,
diem.
yes, yes, here's your per diem. That was great. My husband and I traveled a ton before kids because we both worked for big, corporate in-house places, living the life. Um, but other than that, no, because there's this concept of mom guilt. I'm sure you understand, where like anytime you're away from your children, you feel guilty and that kind of stuff. So I used to have that about work too, where it's like, oh God, it's a snow day today. My kid's going to be home. I got to tell my boss and make all these excuses. And I'm stressed because I have all these meetings and like, whatever. And people are going to think I'm not working as hard because my kid's home. And I don't have any of that. Like, last week, my mother-in-law was like, I'm coming down on Monday and I'm staying with you all week. I'm like, oh. Well, at least there's no added stress of, oh, I got to tell my boss or I got to take a day off and things like that. So that way, no. But one of the things that I actually really enjoy about being out is that I don't have to ask for permission for anything. I just go and I want to make a process better. I'm just doing it. I want to build something. I'm just building it. I want to put out a piece of content. I'm just doing it. And that speed and rapid testing, I've learned so much in the last 3 years than I did my entire career in house just because I've been able to move a lot faster without doing the CYA, cover your
And
ass,
that, yeah,
you know?
and in marketing, I feel like you have to move fast because, like, we're gonna, by the time we release this podcast, I'm sure that there will be 7 new updates, that hasn't happened. So, okay, that's awesome.
Just so I don't forget that, finish that thought. Who should own the website?
Ah, yes. I know I'm the worst at answering questions. How I was like, okay, let's talk about the other thing for 35 minutes. So since I've left in-house, I've heard that this has changed. I'm hearing that there's not as many heads of website and digital. Now they kind of roll up into the growth team. Um, and so I'm hearing a lot of that. When I was in-house, it was always a toss-up when I'd interview at a company. I'm like, who owns the website right now? And I would automatically be able to tell like what my time is going to be like inside this company. And so if they would say, "Oh, it sits under brand," I'm like, "Okay." So my fight is going to be a lot more around the design, storytelling. They think copy needs to be a certain way, and then when we go into, "Oh, you're going to report into demand," I'm like, "Okay." They're going to be far more revenue focused. And there's pros and cons to each side because one will completely sacrifice aesthetics or they have very bad taste in aesthetics. And then the other side is very aesthetics focused, but not very analytical. They don't really care about the numbers as much, but then the numbers is what the CMO or whoever wants to see. Um, I didn't, it was my job as head of website to be the middleman and tell them where their constraints were. I do think that it has to sit under marketing regardless. I'm not passionate one way or the other with brand or demand. Since I was in charge of the digital side more, which is the landing pages, the ad spend, all of those things, I prefer the demand side because we all still have that goal of like, okay, I got to make sure that my pages are set up correctly so that I could drive more revenue pipeline eventually because that's what we're held to. I think it's an easier conversation to prove the value of the website when you're under demand than when you're under, brand. Not to make huge generalizations, but that's just my experience of like, it's not a brochure, it's an experience. How do we make this experience something that can translate, into numbers for the company, but also value for the user?
But what I'm hearing is, and I guess that's, glad to hear you say. I mean, it's marketing that should own it. In some companies, there's no demand gen departments, just like all under marketing.
Mhm.
You don't know how many companies I've gone into as a consultant, and it's like the website's under IT, and it's just like, is it on or not? And I'm like, Jesus. So I mean, it's a revenue channel or like demand channel. So I think yeah, that's the short answer to my question at least.
I think, yeah, a lot of the clients that we have met, and we in our agency days and now in the consulting days, like, it was some, a product person thought of a solution, brought on a team to help create this product, and the side task was throw a website up.
Yeah.
So we've got this, and it was whatever they had learned in university to like code a website.
Yeah.
Like by actually coding it instead of like,
And pack it with features.
yeah, exactly. And then, and make it 100% non-customizable in any way without knowing how to code.
I can't let you go away, Tess, without asking you this, because we have you here for free, and people probably pay millions of dollars to ask you these questions. But what are your number one tips and tricks to a good landing page?
Oh my gosh, number one. Let me oh my God, let me think about that. I think the biggest thing is just use plain language. I think that I don't know where it happened, how it started, who approved it, why do we talk this way? Like, if you go to any D2C website, especially retail stuff, they talk like Gen Zers. Oh, it's giving sale, they talk like that.
Yeah.
And in B2B, you go to any B2B website and it's like AI powered, disrupting, blah, blah, blah. It's like, who talks like that? We don't talk like that. Even as B2B marketers, we don't talk like that. And so I think a lot of the inability to understand is because we are speaking this like second language when we all don't speak that language. And I don't know what it is, and why we do that. So it's funny because obviously I told you I've been building a lot of stuff. So I've been like obsessed with Lovable. And one of the first things I built was like a landing page auditor, but like based on my POV. And I was like, it'd be freaking hilarious to have a buzzword counter. And so it actually has a buzzword counter in there that's like, here are all the buzzwords. You have 13 buzzwords on your page. And
That's
awesome.
hilarious.
and it calls out which buzzwords they are. And I give it a very specific list of like, here's the buzzword list. If it does, so you're gonna get like a call out because of that. So I'll tell you this, which is when you're looking at a page and you're like, shit, where do I start? The number one thing is make sure that it's even loading on time, because it does not matter if you have the best landing page with the best information on there. If it is just not even showing up within 3 seconds, you're screwed. Okay. So that is like your biggest thing. Second, if you want to optimize any page, you optimize the copy first. Don't worry about the layout. Don't worry about the buttons. Don't worry about the colors, the designs, unless it's like not legible. The copy is the most important thing. I have a partner who's a paid partner. I've taken him to like 5 companies with me, and I make fun of him because every single agency that went up against him had a 68-page slide deck that was the most beautiful thing on planet Earth. And I was like, 68 pages, this is how I'm going to die, sitting through a 68-page
Oh my God.
like slide deck
Death by
call.
slides.
Please
Death
don't.
by slides.
No,
It's like,
death by slides. He literally would pull up a Word doc that he just vomited a bunch of insights on from his audits. But it would be the most substantial stuff. And it's so funny because he works with half my clients now, and they always comment on, I love that he is no bullshit, literally zero fluff. He's got this casual attitude of like, take it or leave it. I don't care. Sign with me. I don't care. So it's almost that like, he's so casual, and he's like, I'm not going to sit here and try to like seduce you with flowers and stuff. I'm going to give you deep stuff that you can take with or without me. So think about him anytime you're looking at your website. Be like, don't stress about the colors and all of that stuff. Make sure that the copy is tight. And then use AI. If you're a lean team, you want to use AI. I'm sorry, I keep thumbs downing, and it's like, it's like popping up as a bubble, right?
the bubble.
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
this is
yeah,
going to
this-
come up now. Okay. So use AI then as your gut check. Don't use it to write the copy, right? Don't use it to write the copy. If you want ideas and for it to help you with writing the copy, give it very specific instructions like don't write above an eighth grade level. Because even the smartest people, again, another statistic, even the smartest people who can read at like college, PhD level, they don't want to do that because brains are inherently built for efficiency and they want to read quickly and retain quickly. And you can do that if you make language easy. So do not write above an eighth grade level unless you have a highly technical audience. Then jargon is okay, buzzwords are not okay. So that's always something to think
Mm,
about.
jargon versus
Um,
buzzwords. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Have you
jargon
seen
versus.
Hemingway.com? Have you?
Yes.
Yeah, because it gives you exactly that. Like, what grade is that copy? I love that page.
Yes, it's amazing. You can use ChatGPT to do the same thing. So you can say, here's the website. Tell me how many buzzwords, here's my website. Give me a buzzword check. Am I going too overboard? Are there alternate ways that I could say this? So do something like that. Write your first draft. Use it as a sparring partner. Tell it to be brutally honest with you. Help you not dumb it down, but like do it in a way that's easy to consume, easily retainable, right? And so that's the second thing is the copy. And we already covered the kinds of copy that you need to have on the page, right? Which is what are you? And people, you need to tell them like 3 to 5 times in order for them to remember stuff. So don't, it might be redundant to you, but it's not to them.
Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that because I was just doing our website the other day and our CTO was like, you have this copy, the same thing twice on our website. I'm like, you think people are going to notice? And he was like, well, it's twice. And I'm like, I mean, it's sometimes okay to repeat things. People, it
Yeah.
reinforces it,
Reinforces things.
Yeah. So
I
thank you.
used to get really annoyed when people would not refer to my email. And now I'm like, it's fine. We're all human. I'm just going to remind you again.
Yeah,
Here's the link.
yeah,
Even though
yeah.
I said it three
People
times
forget.
before. Yeah, people forget. Exactly.
People forget repetition is a thing. Why do you think all ad targeting recommends a minimum of 3 frequency? They
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
it takes about 3 or 4 times in order for it to stick in the human brain. So don't be afraid to like call out your product category. Don't be afraid to talk about the obvious things like, oh, we're property management software. Of course we're for real estate. Really? What kind of real estate? How many types of real estate are there? Big real estate, small real estate, commercial, residential. Be specific, right? So do that, go through how do I make this more simplified? How would I explain this if I was talking to somebody in an elevator? Dave Gerhardt has a great concept in his book, The Founder Brand, where he talks about like the 2 minute explainer. So if someone says, hey, Tass, what does the scroll lab do? And most people will be like, okay, well, so listen, there are landing pages, okay, and landing pages are blah blah blah, and then you go into this explanation, and you know already you've lost them. So he says he actually has kind of a script that you can use, and it says use this script when you're explaining what you do. And so you start with the problem. You're like, you know how when you click on an ad and then it just goes to like a homepage and you're like, oh my God, I clicked on an ad for pants. Like, yeah. Okay. Well, I help create the pages that make sense for the ads, that you're going to make sure that pants page is showing up for the pants ad. And you can run some testing on it and make sure people really like the page. Oh, cool. Okay. So it's just like, how do you, yes, like, how X problem? Well, I built out this solution and it helps eliminate blah, 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 whatever. So yeah, using that script.
I don't know if you're running into this as a consultant, but not, sometimes when I'm asking now my customers or my clients, they give me a ChatGPT answer.
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
And I'm like, you are denied. I am taking your ChatGPT away from you. I'm like, I could ask it this. I'm asking you. And I now have to say, please do not ask AI. Just tell me what you think. And I got the funniest message from the CEO. He goes, I can't do anything without AI anymore. And I was like, at least he's honest about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
but people can smell it. They can feel it.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think.
I
Yeah.
can. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is from the design perspective. Run your website through an ADA compliance check, which is the Disabilities Act, at least in the US. But there's also like a world web accessibility checklist. But if you do the ADA one, you should be okay. Even for the world checklist. Actually, Europe might have even stricter rules for that. But run it through that, which is the Disabilities Act here in the US, but it basically talks about things like color contrast and people with disabilities online, which is 25% of the internet. It's a huge group, either colorblind, can't read, have some issues. That's the main design stuff you need to focus on and keep it really simple. If you're freaking out about colors or you're like, oh my God, what do I need to do? Pick a couple of just like basic colors, like go to Calendly's website. Calendly has it's blue and white. Like they're a huge company. You don't need to be super fancy. You need to be super legible. And I always tell people that legible copy, legible design. You have to be easy on the eyes.
And
So,
Google also cares about that because they have their whole accessibility thing. So they're really obsessed with like color contrast and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you so
That was
much. Yeah,
super,
amazing.
super helpful. I'm almost scared to ask you this final question because you're the queen of teardowns. Have you looked at optize.com?
I have not. I know he's assigned it's one of the many tasks. One of the many tasks you've assigned me, but yeah, I've had a wild week with family and now snow days.
And
So
No, no,
snow.
no. Yeah, that's fine. I'm almost. I don't even want to know. No, I think I think you would be pleasantly surprised. But let's
I'll
leave it
run
at
it
that
through
because
my auditor and
Yes,
let you
put in
know
your
what
auditor
what
and
the
see.
score
That
is
would be
going to
great to
be.
hear.
yes,
Um,
we worked on it with Anthony though, so it I think we've got a pretty good copy there at
Hey,
least.
I worked on my website with Anthony too. So,
oh,
We all love who doesn't love Anthony?
just love Anthony.
well,
That's a new
love is a
new
strong word.
show.
Yeah. Oh, that's the next
Everybody
podcast. Yeah.
loves Anthony. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Actually, and you were mentioning that you have a new podcast coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you don't know about my first podcast, it's Notorious B2B, where we
Great
talk
name.
about,
Great name.
yeah, B2B news. But with Tim and I, we add a little more of a comedic flair to it. So, we try to make it lighthearted, basically proving that B2B is not boring. So, listen to us. We usually launch every Wednesday or Thursday, new episode weekly. Okay. The second one is because we get this question a lot, and people ask us about going out on our own. Should they niche? Should they not? How does a marketer become a solo? And most of the ones are like other solos trying to sell these solos, their courses or whatever. And Tim and I are like, no, we don't care. So we're like, we were just sick of repeating ourselves. So we created a new show called The Marketer's Exit. And so it just basically we just finished our intro and stuff, but it goes through every single thing that a marketer would need to know if they wanted a side gig, they want to go out on their own, thinking about it, they're still in-house, or if you don't want to leave your in-house job, but you're just kind of curious, like, is the grass always green on the other side? We go through it all. So we talk about the problems, the issues, how we effed up, like all of it. And then we're sharing a bunch of like all our early sales decks, all our early packages, all this stuff. Like it is just all the stuff that's only in the group chats are now coming out. We're leaking them, leaking.
Okay, I love it. That sounds awesome. And yeah,
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, okay. And also funny, like as a follow-up to the question, would you rather have been in-house or happy to be on your own? So you'll be talking about that. And obviously you got probably pretty happy to just be your own boss. But it was more like, when you were in-house, you feel like you're so ingrained and you might know the product more, but when you come in as a consultant, you're just a little bit I feel like you have less influence, and sometimes that's annoying to me. Like I want to have more influence.
You're just a consultant. You
Yeah.
don't really
No,
know. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually talk about that too, where it's like I had the, 3 months of onboarding and the thousands of videos that they'd make you watch about, freaking manufacturing systems, and it's like, oh my God, kill me now. But then when I came out and I was like, how do I get up to speed very quickly on my clients' projects and their products? And so I built a process around that. And in the beginning, I was asking all the questions. And then I realized, oh, I don't need to know all of this information. This is the core information that I need. And so I would go in and do all of that. So I actually help create the buyer's business case, which is the first part of my process. And that helps create this business case that a potential buyer would actually have to put together to justify the purchase. That's the only information I need. I don't care about the sub feature, blah, 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 that's sitting in some thing. It's like, what does your buyer need to know? How do we build the pages and the paid ecosystem around what the buyer needs to know? And that's kind of the first stage. I don't need to know everything. The second, regarding the influence piece, because I have a pretty productized process and I solve a very specific problem, they trust me as the expert on that problem. Okay, I might know more about the product than Tass does, but Tass knows more about landing pages than I do. I have an inkling about how I should do them. Am I doing them correctly? I'm going to have her tell me. My founder doesn't seem to be super bought into why we need landing pages. I'm going to have her explain it to him. So those are the things where I own that problem. They trust my expertise in that area. I also give them set deliverables. And so they're like, okay, I can move on to my other 45 projects. That one is, kind of taken care of. Like I've got a team on that. So I don't run into the influence problem a lot. Sometimes the mid-level managers will want me to come in and explain to the higher managers, and even though I end up saying the same thing, they take my word for it over the in-house person. It's like when you're married, I don't listen to my spouse.
Of
But
course,
then,
no.
then I
But if
go,
your friend gives you advice, you're like,
oh,
oh,
yeah, it's
fine,
the
yeah.
same advice. I will go crowdsource opinions and it'll come back to what my husband initially told me. And I'm like, yeah, but I had to verify that you weren't
Yes,
just saying
trust
what
but
you were saying.
verify.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust but verify. So it's the same thing. You're never going to listen to someone closest to you, but
No,
suddenly an
exactly.
outsider comes in and it's like, oh, okay.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
know?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for, taking time away from your snow day and time with your family. We really, really appreciate it.
Truly.
And if people wanted to find you, you've got the 2 podcasts and anywhere else they can connect with you.
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, Task Bober, like we mentioned earlier. If you want to check out my website, it is thescrolllab.com for landing page stuff. But honestly, come to LinkedIn. I'm way more fun there.
Okay, awesome. I love
You
it.
are fun there.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I never want to get roasted by Taz or be the topic of conversation for Notorious
I
B2B.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
we were selling sponsorships for Notorious B2B, we were like, yeah, you can sponsor us and we will bash your competitors for you.
Yes.
Like
I
that would be
love it.
I do
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
really
yeah.
good,
Fun.
that's a good incentive. I love it.
You can
All right,
buy the
well,
press. No.
yes. Yeah, it's not shady. We're telling you, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much,
Taz. Have a
Tash.
good one.
Of course.